What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord, here with his good buddy, Dion. What's going on, pal?
Howdy. Doing great. I'm excited about this because I think retirement is dead.
It's just because you're busting my stones. As always, we wanted to bring you a fantastic surprise live. I said to D on the end of the live stream yesterday, I was like, hey, D, why don't we do a live stream? And then he saw that. And so he was like, we can do a live stream. We also invited our good buddy, Millennial Mike, but, you know, he's probably working. Very
Rob, he's off getting shot at today.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. More than likely, right? So what we wanted to talk today about is retirement dead? Oh, Dividend Dave's here. Fantastic. Now we can start. We wanted to talk about retirement being dead. So as always, I will let you kick us off and why you think retirement may be dead.
So the first thing I would start with, and this will give people a chance to get questions into the comments, because our goal is to answer questions that relate to financial freedom, retiring early, making work optional, and then apparently working for years and years more, like you keep doing. But what is retirement? There's so many people that use this term passive income to where they think, I want to not do anything at all, and the money comes in. Like there's passive income that the IRS says it's categorized as a different form of income, so it's taxed differently. There's passive income where people think, I didn't go to work and sell my life 1 hour at a time to get this money. And then there's like this iron lung passive income where people are saying, I don't even want to breathe for myself. I want to lay still, the machine breathes for me, and money piles up into my bank account.
The Dion approach.
The Dion approach, right. So when we say things like, I invest in real estate, I have enough cash flow to make work optional, I retired early, you'll have these, and I'm going to use some terms because we're on your channel, because we can get canceled here. You have these tards that jump into the comments and they go, well, that's not retired. You created another job. Well, how many hours would you think it takes to work a job versus what is it like to be retired? Now, on YouTube, there's a guy, Joe Kuhn. He often talks about retire to something, not from something. So what are you going to do once you retire?
Sure.
And for me, it's, I don't want to retire to something that gives me purpose. So many, like, and to clarify what that means, a lot of people say, I don't want to quit my job because it's my purpose. People who work in the healthcare field, they want to heal people that run nonprofits, like my nonprofit that help people find jobs, right? You're helping people get a better life, but make more income. If you have to be paid to be somewhere, I don't think that's your purpose. You might find a job you enjoy more than others, but if it's still something you're paid for. So when I talk about retirement being dead, it's because so many people will fight you on, if you create streams of income that don't take you as much time as a job so that you can step back and not have a job. An example, I'll just use myself. Now I have 18 rental units. It takes me about 2 hours a month if you take out this stupid rehab I'm doing, the one and only I will ever do, because that's taking time. But it didn't take all that time to get to where I'm at. And if I wasn't doing this as an experiment for YouTube videos, I probably wouldn't be doing this either. But 2 hours a month to last year make $203,000 in profit versus 50 to 60 hours a week, right? At a company building someone else's dream so that you get the paycheck. And then that's for me talking about retiring early.
Right.
There are other people who think, well, I'm going to retire at the regular age. So they make the mistake of thinking retirement is an age, not an amount, like an amount of income coming in every month. So
Sure.
Instead of how old, think how much. Well, since we were born, we've heard Social Security is insolvent. They keep kicking the can on when it's going to go, when it's going to start paying a smaller percentage. People mistake what they think the purpose of Social Security is. They think it's to take care of the elderly. Have you heard me talk about what the purpose of Social Security actually is?
No,
it actually came.
Okay.
I think I mentioned this in One Rental at a Time last week, but I don't know if you were there. I think you were there because your internet was in or out.
Okay.
But Social Security came out in Germany because there was not enough jobs for younger.
Yes.
So they put together a fund and they said, hey, we're actually going to pay older people to get the hell out of the way so we can get younger people jobs. So we don't have Clockwork Orange going on in Germany. Well, it's the same in the US. The idea is to pull older people out of the workforce so that we have more jobs for younger people. Well, if it's insolvent, that's less money going to older people. How many times Zuber mentioned it in his one rental at a time daily update this morning? More older people are returning to work. He actually had a term for it that I don't remember, but it is people returning to work. So is retirement dead because people are returning to work? No, those are people generally. It's probably a few categories. The first is they didn't do money right. They financially have to return to work. So there's some people doing that, not all. And then there are some who actually missed, I don't get this, missed the human interaction of having a job and being around people, because yuck.
Yeah.
Like some of the people I worked with, I wouldn't trade time freedom for that. Right. So you have some people returning to work, but then you have retirement in this country for the first 100 years was you grew a farm, you had a bunch of kids, you grew old, your kids took over the farm, you retired, they took care of you. To draw people away from the farms, factories had to come out with pensions. And they said, look, you're not going to have a retirement here where your kids take over your job. You work with us long enough, and then we'll pay you until you die. So the life expectancy is like 47. You work 20 years. So you work from 20 to 40. They'll pay for you for 7 years. Well, life expectancy goes longer. Wages go higher. Companies can't afford to do pensions forever, to where now some of the only pensions we have left are companies that say, oh, we're going to have a union, so you have a pension. So yeah, Yellow shuts down their entire operation and says, fine, you want a union? Cool, we'll close our doors. You have teachers, you have municipalities, you have the Fed, right? But some cities are actually filing bankruptcy, so they don't have to pay the full amount of their pensions.
Right.
So then we shift from that fixed pension to the one where you contribute. The company will give a match. And so you have these 401k systems that come out for the last decade. So what we have now, and I've got it on my screen in front of me, the first statistic to be aware of is 48%. We'll call it half. It's 48%, but I know somebody in the comments later in Futureland can correct me.
Not
half. It's not half, it's only 48% of Americans between the age of 55 and 65. So that's pretty close to that, what people would consider the age, which is not the way I look at it, the age of retirement, have zero saved for retirement, nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people quote that to create fear and go, look, there's all these people that don't have anything. What are they going to do? Well, Matt, I have zero saved for retirement. Nothing in a retirement account, nothing in a 401k, nothing in a Roth, nothing that they would say this is saved for retirement. What do I have? Cash flow from rental. So I'm wondering, out of those 48% that have nothing saved for retirement, how many of them are smart enough to not have anything in retirement accounts?
Probably not much.
Probably not very many. Then for the people who do have 401ks, there's by age. So currently 25 to 34, they have about 30,000 in their retirement account. 35 to 44, they have 76,000. 45 to 54, they have 142,000. This is as you get older, you've generally had more compound, more match, more contribution, to where at 55 to 64, the average 401k retirement account has 207. And the flaw with this is this doesn't factor in the 48% who don't have anything in a retirement account.
Right.
This is just of retirement accounts. This is where they're at. So if the average income is 57,000 or whatever it is, right? Average in New York is very different than the average in Twin Falls, Idaho, for example. Let's say an average person spends $50,000 a year. If the average 401k retirement plan has about 200,000 in it at the retirement age, people better not live longer than 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason I kind of wanted to talk about is retirement dead is I think the traditional method of retiring, where you work for a company for a long enough period of time to get a pension, that's gone. The contribution method is a scam that makes 3 people money, and none of them are the people with the retirement account. The first is the government, because delaying taxes doesn't matter to the government. In the future, you're probably going to have a higher income and taxes are going to be higher. So they're going to get more money in the future. The second is your employer, because a retirement 401k, Roth, well, anything with your employer match is a recruitment and retention tool. That's how they get you to stay there. Sometimes companies will dangle something like golden handcuffs and say, if there's ever a sale of our company, you can have $2 million because you're a 10% on contract owner of our company. And I still think it was a smart move for me to walk away from that. to literally give up $2 million to get the time freedom that I have. Because once you reach financial freedom, I don't think people will believe me, but this is actually how I feel. Money doesn't matter. It's just a thing at that point.
Mhm.
So, and the third person that makes money off your retirement accounts is the people who manage the accounts, because they make money whether you make money or you lose money. They're still making money. And then there's not enough there for the average person to retire with. There are a couple of things that people should do. If you don't invest and you don't have ways of creating income, if you don't have a way of putting your money to work, a retirement account is better than nothing, right? There was a statistic for the last 10 years that kept getting quoted, and I got irritated every time I heard it. They said the average American, it was like 60% or 64% of the average Americans can't afford an expense of $1,000 without going into debt. I actually thought that was a good thing. If the banks are paying you 0.01% and you could put your money to work somewhere else, and you had credit cards available for those emergencies, I think there were some people out there logically going, it doesn't do me any good to have money in the bank. So they were putting their money somewhere else. There's a lot of people who kept it in cash at their house because they come from an area where you just don't trust the banks. So I think that's kind of a flawed statistic. When we look at all of these statistics on retirement, amount of savings, there's another one I hear quoted, should you be a home buyer or a renter? There's actually a net worth difference. So it's the retirement age, again, that statistic I don't like, because it's a how much, not how old, is and my memory kicked in. The statistic on
Renters versus homeowners. Right. Yep.
The net worth of an average homeowner at retirement age is $221,000. The average net worth of a renter at retirement age, $6,800. So it's not like, hey, this is like 10% more or 20% more. It's an exponentially different number of $6,800 for renters, over $200,000 for homeowners. So I would recommend owning your home. If you don't invest, have a retirement account. Think of ways you can generate income with your money that don't take you selling your life 1 hour at a time. For some of us, that's real estate. For some people, real estate's not their thing. I've talked to some people, I'm like, oh, you should never own a rental, right? And the people who say, if my expenses go up, my rent has to go up. You shouldn't own a rental. That's not how it works. Your expenses don't set your rents. Which is actually what I'm talking about tomorrow on my live stream. The 5 things that are actually causing rents to go up that aren't your expenses, and they aren't inflation. So as somebody who you've worked, how long have you been at the same company now, Matt?
16 years.
16 years. What is retirement going to look like for you?
I'm now at a new company for 1 day. So
For 1 day. Okay.
So I think that so for me in my journey, I've worked for 5 different companies over 25 years. And I've had 13 different jobs in those companies because I was a climber. I climb up the corporate ladder pretty quickly because I would always deliver results in any role that I was in. And so for me, it was, I was with a smaller company, much like you. Ownership were the people I interacted with, the founders. And so for me, my challenge was, I wanted to be a part of that and then essentially help them exit. And so I did. I helped them exit. But what I realized in the whopping 1 day that I've no longer been their employee, that was actually the issue. It wasn't what I was doing. I love what I was doing. It wasn't who I was working with. I loved who I was working with. It's who I was working for. Because the new ownership has been spectacular in a day. Like I brought to them 2 problems in the first day. Like, yeah, I'm that guy, right? Hi, great to meet you. You're my new boss. Here's 2 problems I have. And they've already fixed them. They've already addressed them. And so it's a real challenge because, for some of us, I can speak for me. I love what I do. I'm really good at what I do. I don't find my identity in what I do. I've got 3 kids and a wife. So I find my identity in that, we as a family. And so it was just really interesting to see because, for the last, we've been talking about it for about a year now. I've been really excited about retirement, really excited about leaning on my rentals, really excited about just doing more in that space and having ultimate time freedom. And I can tell after a whopping 12 hours in the new company that now I'm conflicted because I really like, so far it's early, right? It's a first date. But so far I really like who I'm working with, really like just their general approach, their demeanor, their attitude. So, for me, it really is, I liked the people that I was working with. I loved what I was doing and I didn't like who I was doing it for. And so for me, I feel like it's one day in, so I'm not going to get crazy and say it's completely shifted, but we are one day in and I feel like it shifted just based on my one day experience because they want to go and do things and accomplish things and make their mark. And that was what had kind of passed and died with the old ownership group. So yeah, so my answer right now is I don't know, because I really enjoyed spending time with them. I really enjoyed working through problems with them. It got the juices flowing again because, man, I was dying in the way that we used to approach things under the previous ownership.
So 2 things, and then I'm hoping that we'll get to the questions in the comments. And these 2 things aren't meant.
They're meant to mock me, but go ahead.
No, not meant to mock you, not meant to hurt you. They're meant to make you think.
Yes, for sure.
So this is a meme from social media. The first one. In 20 years, who's going to remember that you worked overtime?
Sure. No one.
Not your kids.
No,
or not your employer. It's only going to be your
not
kids,
in a positive way, right?
Right, not a positive way, right?
Sure.
And then, have you heard me explain the number 19?
Yes, it's 19. 19 years total with your kids, and 18 of them are before they leave the house, unless you're Dion, who leaves at 15.
Exactly. So you're going to have 19 years with those kids.
Yes.
Right. So they're going to turn 18. And then if you've done it right, they do their own life.
Yes.
Like your job as a parent, it's cool to be friends with your kids, right? But it's not your job. Your job is to make sure that they become self-sufficient, happy adults as much as you can.
Yep.
And so you get those 18 years now, which most of us spend working.
Yeah.
And then you get that 1 year. I think if you look at the number of days in those 18 years that you're going to get to spend with your kids, no matter how much you enjoy your job, if you found a path to time freedom, I think there's strong motivation there to take it.
So I agree. I think the challenge is my kids don't get home from school until 3:30 in the afternoon. So that's the older 2. So my thought concept is, okay, so I miss an hour and a half there. If I can be in a position and deliver effective results where it starts when they go to school and it ends an hour and a half after they get out, that's something that I want to consider, because the old me before kids, BK, before kids, I would work 80 to 100 hours a week. Before kids, 80 to 100 all day long, primary job, side hustle, everything. It was crazy. It was bad. But it was crazy. But now with kids, I am very time efficient, where I wake up before they wake up. I get a bunch of stuff done. Then I spend time with my kids in the morning. Then I go to work and I work all day, but the 2 oldest are in school. And then the younger one isn't, but she's out with mom doing other stuff. So for me, and from my perspective, it would right now, if I didn't have a job, I would just be like Dion, pursuing other desires in life, like amazing travel. But I hate travel. Like, you love it and you're awesome at it. I hate it and I suck at it.
Caveat there.
What's that?
Most of your travel that I've
Yeah.
seen or heard you talk about
Yeah.
has been work related.
So I used to take a lot. So we used to take, when I got married, we were broke because it was the Great Recession. And so when we started taking vacations, I love US vacations, love them. But I've got the palate of a 7-year-old. And so going to other places and eating adventurous things, bleh, and I don't drink alcohol. So numbing my tongue before I eat it bleh, doesn't happen. And so for me, I actually like the comforts of home. And I also, I'm like really easy. Like I'm not making sure I'm around in case there's a problem with a property. That's not me.
Why do you think everywhere Millennial Mike goes, he goes, where's the local Denny's? Let's go eat.
Yeah,
It's the
exactly.
same no matter where you go.
Yeah.
So the two types of travel that you've had then, one is for work, two is a very frugal budget.
So we kind of blew it out in Vegas this last time. We spent a lot of money.
Oh, this last time, yeah. So it's a little bit different of a travel. Here's an example. I'm about to take this cruise. I'm taking a cruise to the Mediterranean, right? It's a cruise. Cruises are all kind of the same. You're on a boat, you go to ports. It's to me, that's not actual real travel. That's the experience of the cruise. But when I get back, I'm headed to Thailand for 3 months. Now, if you're like some of the expats that retire to Thailand that have $1,000 or $2,000 a month in income coming in from disability or your retirement account or your small pension or whatever, yeah, you can live there. But if you go to Thailand and your goal is to try to figure out how to spend $15,000 each month, it's a very different travel experience than the person who has a budget when they're traveling.
Yep. So I think the only difference, right? The other difference that comes into play is that your kids are grown and gone. And so I've got nothing but that
Now, imagine if you could take them and give them that experience.
Well, so that's the thing. So we do that, but we also have to keep them in school. My wife doesn't.
You just had the summer,
Right?
Because you had a job, you just had a summer where
Yep.
the kids had a summer. If you didn't have a job this summer, and I'm going to get off this attack mat train.
No, you're okay. It's all right. I don't mind.
This entire 3 months could have been with your cash flow anyway.
Yeah, oh, very true. That's true. Yep.
With a private chef to make extremely basic food for your 7-year-old palate.
I refuse to pay for PB&J to be made. I refuse. And burgers. I can do that on my
to
own.
convince you that
that
there aren't words to express.
Yeah.
You don't know how much stress you're under.
Yeah.
You won't until you retire. Because I would have told everybody, I love my job.
Well,
I was the company president, set the schedule, created the curriculum, did everything.
It did change. It did change for me for sure, going from old company to new company. Because, being part of a small company, right? It's when you're capable, 7 things are on your plate, right? When you're capable, listen, when you own a business, that there's the 1 or 2 people that you can count on to get anything done, whether they have experience or not. I know Dion's owners, not a bit, but I know Dion. And I know that they could very easily say, hey, we'd like to understand what it would take to open up a campus in Istanbul. And he would say, I don't think that's probably the right idea. And then they would say, that's all right. We still want to know. And he'd go, sounds like I'm going to learn Turkish. And so that's what Dion would do. And that's what I would do as well. And so we could always do the owner's bidding, if you will, to go and figure something out for them. But that's what makes us so much smarter than them, is because we had to go figure everything out. So anything that they know, we told them. And then we know all the other pieces around it. So I think that's very true. And so one of the things that I do truly spend time with Dion, and we're friends. But what's really funny about it is that he's taught me better how to relax. I mean, I don't want to be so relaxed that I'm like one step above coma. But
you don't want that iron lung passive income.
Yeah, no, not yet. But I think, because again, for me, it's I think that there's something earlier on in our lives, right? Where when we see how we grew up and how poor we were growing up, right? There's that thing that breaks in us that makes us make sure that we're never going to be that again, right? but then we have to re-break ourselves to get off of that track. And I think that's what you've done an amazing job of doing, is kind of re-breaking yourself and going, nope, I'm good. I'm good for the rest. Like, this is good enough for the rest of my life. I'm in good spot. And I think for me, I think that I'm in that kind of that same spot. I think the only thing that's different is I still need my kids seeing and experiencing the work ethic, because I'm concerned that my youngest will be like, I was always around. He didn't have a job.
Only see the results, right?
Right. Only see the results. And that's one of the things we're really, really, really careful of. There's nothing. I want my kids constantly learning the lesson, right? This is how we break our kids. I want my kids always around the lesson of, dad's a hard worker. Dad always looks for value. Dad finishes, makes us finish our dinner. All of these types of things. Those are all the lessons that I had to learn growing up that helped me become who I was. And so I think the biggest mistake that parents can make is removing difficulty from their kids' lives, because you and I had a tough, different, but tough upbringing. Your dad was the way that your family did things was extremely amazing and interesting. My dad wasn't around to do that stuff. And so my mom wasn't nearly as innovative. And so that was really the challenge. So for me, it is absolutely being around for my kids, but recognizing that it's value-based. Love my kids, love my time with my kids, but I want them to see that daddy works hard. I want to afford them things in their life that I couldn't be afforded. But at the same time too, you're walking that fine line of not spoiling them either, because I'm not going to have that kid who mistreats his things or mistreats others, or, doesn't, can't create relationships. And so for me, it's about, again, not removing those challenges from our kids, making sure that they feel those challenges, but that I'm also there to potentially help work out that challenge. So for me, I think where I'm at is I love my job. I like the people I work with. So far, I really like the people I work for, but we're 24 hours in, so I'm not proposing marriage. But I'm going to just kind of see how it plays out, because if I can, who says you can't have it all? And if I have to give up an hour and a half a day with my kids 5 days a week, so they can learn the lesson that dad works his ass off, and, that he's good at what he does, and that, his opinion is seeked, and it's because he's studied himself to show himself approved. I want my kids being able to be that same thing for others. And so, yeah, that's kind of where my head's at right now. But I can tell you, I am grateful that the transaction went through, because I couldn't have done it. It was soul stealing. I totally get what you're saying. I couldn't have done it anymore for those owners. So it was good.
So in Futureland, somebody watching this video, when you were giving your speech on how much you like your job, how much you enjoy it, how much your kids benefit from you working, I guarantee in Futureland, there's somebody who sat back in their chair and said, see, there are people who love their jobs and just want to work. Shut the hell up, Dion. What are you talking about? And here's why I'm going to say, I believe Matt, and that person is full of crap. Because you could retire.
Yeah, for sure.
You have the income to do it. Yep. And you were saying, but here are the benefits to me continuing to work. There are people who have zero savings, zero assets, zero cash flow that doesn't come from them selling their lives, sitting back going, well, I'm just doing this because I love my job. There's a complete difference in choosing to work and having to work. The absolute living hell that it is, that if you don't go to work tomorrow, you lose your house, you lose your source of food, you lose your pride, your everything, because you have to, versus your cash flow, your portfolio, your cash flow, your net worth, multiples of literal multiples, like
don't say how many multiples
times, somewhere in there, right? Like we've done that math. But you're choosing to work.
Yes.
So I could say I believe you.
So I think that is the twist, right? Is that work has to be a choice. It has to be.
No, it has to be, but it isn't I would say
I totally agree with you.
90% of people.
I totally agree with you. I think that that's what everybody should be working towards, is to make work a choice. And so for me, work really is a choice. I chose and choose to keep showing up. I choose to make that a part of my life for the experience that I get, for the experience my family gets, for the experience my kids get. I choose. However, that being said, this transition, if I had to do it, and I had no other option, I'd have been absolutely miserable. When you make that transition from old company to new company, one of the things that I think is really interesting is when you're one of the executives, it's, do I still have a job? Okay, what is my responsibility? All right, how much money do I make? All right, and then how do I make more from there? All right, what's my career path? Do you know what questions I asked in the transition? None. Didn't need to. So really, every single day, I get to choose. Do I show up for work today, or do I call that my last day? And that freedom, that there is joy in that freedom, because I make no sacrifice to what I can do, can't do, all of this other stuff. If they let me go Wednesday because they just don't like the cut of my jib, that's quite possible. I am a lot to take, because I play with the attitude of I've got nothing to lose. So I win a lot. When I lose, but I win a lot more often than I lose. And when I win, it's big. I'm not the guy eking out the clock at $5 a hand blackjack. I'm playing with stacks. And so that helps make me good, because I don't have to worry about that safety net, and I can take much stronger, better, and calculated risk. So for me, it remains the freedom to walk away. Now, that being said, I did send Dion a text yesterday, and the text that I sent him said, got to tell you, just had a nap and it was glorious. I said kind of glorious, actually. And it was kind of glorious. So for that, for what it's worth. But for me, exactly, the Pink Panther. It's awesome. It's so good. It's so good. But yeah, it's been that vacation that we took in January that we were with you guys and spent a bunch of time with you guys was absolutely awesome. That was the biggest, longest vacation I've ever taken. The most expensive vacation I've ever taken, because my 3 little kids, we took them on we created memories and did a ton of experiences. But that's really where it's at for me, is that, I think Tom Brady can still play the game. And the reason I talk about Tom Brady a lot is A, he's from New England, or was a New England Patriot, but B, he's 2 months younger than me. And so when he came into the draft, he was this lanky, ugly, bad body, not only intangibles. That's me. Not lanky, just only intangibles. And so he made a Hall of Fame career of it. And so it was great watching his career and watching my career. They were a lot in lockstep with each other, where it was like, there was no reason for this 9th grade dropout to be successful, but I got there, and super blessed that it happened. But yeah, I think that, he left not because his skills had eroded. He left because it was just like, it was a lot. And clearly he was ready to say, I'm ready to do something different. So I'm looking forward to that day. And that day was already upon me with my old ownership. That day is not upon me with these new guys. And so I'm really excited just to kind of see how it rolls out. But the best part is, and Dion said it perfectly, it takes me always more words to describe things because Dion's a better teacher. But for me, it really is about the freedom of choice. I get to do whatever I want to do. If I really don't like how things are going there, I can have an honest conversation with them and not worry that I have to keep my job, right? So one of the things, Dion, you and I know a lot about in leadership is you can't lead them if you need them.
Right.
Sorry. And so it's like, I might need somebody, they might be a great employee, but I can't lead you if I'm always concerned that you're going to up and quit. If that's the way, then, I need to really understand where you're coming from on something. But if I still believe it's my company and I'm in charge, and I still believe that my way is still the right way, I need you to fall in tow with vim and vigor and recognize that if that mistake happens, then it's my mistake. It's not yours, because I'm the one that's charted overall with the end result. Enough executive leadership talk. Let's get into questions. Let's see. Dividend Dave. Hey, he's here. Richard Gamino, you're here. Dion, LOL. Dividend Dave, LOL. Dividend Dave, how do you find or make deals in high cost areas where there's a lot of appreciation asking for a friend? Oh, I don't love that question, Dave. So I'm going to give it to Dion first because I probably will end up yelling.
I like the question. I think it's actually comes up a lot because a lot of people are like, it's no matter what market you're in, it feels like the hardest market ever to buy a property.
Absolutely.
I'll look back and go, oh, there was a year where it was really easy, but that year, and I've talked about this in several videos, since 2012, here's like a short list of why you shouldn't buy properties, why it's too hard. In 2013, prices started to go above where they were in 2008. So all the people who think price, which doesn't impact the market the way the people think it does, is going to cause the crash, said this is unsustainable, nobody can pay this much. We've gone up for a decade since then. 14 and 15, we had the silver tsunami. All the boomers were going to start retiring. So there's going to be this flood of inventory. Well, the retiring doesn't mean that they all sell their house and downsize,
Correct.
especially when prices are going up. Can't buy the
especially
smaller house for less than you had your bigger house. Then you have 2018 interest rates were above 6%, and nobody can buy a property when interest rates are above 6%. Right? It's not possible.
It's impossible.
Then we have a pandemic. We have an eviction moratorium. We have interest rates double in a year. So every single year, Dividend Dave, there's no way you can buy real estate now. The sense, and Dave should be able to quote my answer verbatim from having heard me say it in other videos. Here's the shift in places that have appreciated a lot. For the last couple of years, a year ago or before, speed was your friend. You wanted to get an offer in before the seller realized they were going to get a ton of offers, waiving contingencies, offering to name their kid after them, over asking, like all of these things to try to get their attention. You wanted an offer in quick so that they would say, we accept it. And now you get the sunk cost theory. They're not going to go with a better offer, even if it comes in. So my agents and my lenders knew that they had about an hour to get me my letter of pre-qualification, get my DocuSign offer submitted, or I was going to the next agent and the next lender. And I was very clear that this was how it worked. 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday, you have an hour to respond to these things, or I'm going to the next one until someone does. Speed mattered. The shift in this last year when interest rates doubled is now you have the ability to identify a motivated seller. We didn't have that before. If you had an offer in quick and they accepted it, or you don't know if they had to sell, or if they just thought that's a good enough price, I'll sell if I get that. Well, now, if they have to sell and the property sits on the market longer, so what you do now is you watch days on market. In those appreciating markets, you're going to find clean properties sell quickly. Yep. So the FHA buyer, the VA buyer, the place that they're going to have to buy a place that's live-in ready, and if they're not doing a rehab loan, is going to sell quick. There's going to be more FHA. We're going to see a spike because every recession there's a spike in FHA loans. It's actually one of the reasons FHA exists. Your property that needs more work is going to sit longer. So you're going to have to look at things, not enough work towards beyond your scope, kind of like the one that I bought. This is more work than I wanted to do in the rehab. Again, first and last rehab, first and last burr, not my thing. I'm super lazy. But you're going to look at a property that is not as clean as the others, that sat on the market a long time, and you're going to make a ridiculously low offer. If they're not motivated, they're going to ignore you or reply and tell you to F off, right? If they are motivated, they're going to counter. Now you have to, it's that cat and mouse game of how motivated are they? How many other people are looking at it? Because if they just start dropping the price on the MLS, they might get an offer from someone else when they hit the number that made sense to them. So you make an offer that makes sense to you at your numbers, where you will cash flow, because even if there is appreciation, we're still investing for cash flow. That's my answer to that question every time, is what's shifted in the market. And what I'm saying now in 3 months or 6 months won't apply. It applies right now when we're watching average days on markets in the counties that I invest are 6 to 9. Somewhere between 6 and 9 days is average days on market. That's information from Beth Traverso that she shared on Zuber's channel. She actually shared it. So I was looking at properties that were on the MLS more than 100 days and making offers that made sense to me. That's what I would do, Dave.
Yeah. So my 2 cents on that, Dave, is they're high cost areas for now. when everybody thought in 06 and 07 that those were high cost areas and they were never going to go down and anything was ever going to happen, it really comes down to the ability to purchase, right? Which is whether it's interest rate or price of house, it's the combination thereof. The reason that the market skyrocketed was because you could get debt at 2.5%. That's the reason that those high cost areas got even more high cost, and largely why they had all the appreciation. So typically housing over any 20-year period is up 4.5 to 5% a year. That's the average. Well, for 9, 10, 11, 12, or 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you had 5 years of decline, which totaled about 28.7% thereabouts. Now, that's the thing that the crash bros are dumb about. They don't understand how markets work. Markets don't work even though it felt like it, if you were in one of those markets that collapsed, it felt like it for you, but that wasn't how the country worked. That's why you had a downtrend for 5 years in a row. Then you plateau and then up, and then we've been up since. We've basically been up for about 11 years. But some markets have been up for 14 years. So I look at high cost areas where those also get the same massive reduction. And so rates and what you can buy it for really matter. But what you're looking for, the one lesson, there's a lot of lessons to be learned from Pace Morby, but he's always creating a solution where there's a problem. He's not pitching around not a problem. He's pitching to a problem. He's creating a solution in the moment where there is a problem and helping somebody get their exit. Because that fear and that problem is the greatest motivator of anybody. So that's likely human element. That's likely what's going to get him his best deal. So that's where, from that perspective, people hate on him for, oh, you screwed that guy over. No. The guy in that position doesn't feel that way at all. The guy in that position says, I found the buyer that gets me exited out of my problem. And that's what I needed most. I needed to get out of my problem. So that's where a lot of people just miss it and don't really understand it. Heath Hager, exactly, Dion. Self-managing a small sacrifice, a pinch of pleasure, but it is a lot easier when you hit the pinnacle of the mountain and you can fly down and have fun with the ride. Completely agree. Dividend Dave, each rental is a retirement account. I concur. Financial Firefighter, Mark, good to see you. Aloha from Hawaii. Hope you guys are doing okay out there. Josh Coster, if baby boomers and older people retiring and have most of the wealth in America, how do you position yourself correctly? Take care of a lot of older people with big retirement accounts. I'm teasing. I'm joking, of course. I think that, how did they get there, right? These big retirement accounts, longevity. And I think the most important thing that you learn about longevity in anything, job, like even real estate, I see people selling out now that they bought properties in the 80s. I bought one from somebody. They bought it in 1981. It is a duplex. They bought it in 1981 and they paid $60,000 for this duplex. I paid $525,000 for that duplex. That's pretty awesome for them. They had that mortgage paid off for years. They lived on the one side for years. They didn't have any other requirement. They had 4 kids that they put through those bedrooms, so they couldn't afford a big family house. The guy was an electrician, grinder, nice guy. And now he's retired. Now he says, I have enough to go buy a nice 1-level house wherever I want. I've got my retirement, but I also, more importantly, have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash now, just an everyday Joe. And he's probably got $500,000 in retirement. Plus he has his pension. And he, got rid of his house and he now has a nice double wide. Loves it. For him, I was solving a problem. But Dion, what are your thoughts?
Well, I hope Josh takes this in the right tone. Because I'm going to kind of contradict the question.
Okay.
So he says, if baby boomers and older people retiring have most of the wealth in America, which I think that's a flawed version of the question. when we hear statistics like how much, what is the average savings in a retirement account? The older you get, that seems like the more you have, right? But still, there were people in their 60s that only have 200,000 saved with their retirement account. Home ownership statistic. Most people assume the next generation just has it harder. Well, baby boomers currently have, at the age of 25, had the highest level of home ownership. Prices were low. We were just starting to get dual income houses. 30-year mortgages just started to be a thing in the 70s. So when the baby boomers were 25, they started to own more homes. Do you know what the next generation, like of at the age of 25, who owns the most homes? It's not Gen X when we were 25. It's not millennials when they were 25. It's Gen Z currently at the age of 25 owns more homes than millennials or Gen X did, but not as many as baby boomers because you had a couple of different factors there. So there's more home ownership there at that. So the current Gen Z, when they are the age of the baby boomers, will have more money, more savings, if that rent versus ownership statistic holds true, than millennials and Gen X does. Then you look at the statistics of what I talked about at the beginning of the video. The 48% of people between the age of 55 and 65 have zero save for retirement. So when we hear the average 401k is 200,000, that means there's still half the people out there that don't have a 401k at all, that just aren't in that factor, that average net worth, average retirement account worth. Go out to any restaurant, any hardware store, any physical labor job, and look at all of the people older than 50 still working because they have to. Go and travel around and don't look at all the neighborhoods where the houses are $300,000 to $600,000 and you're going to get that social media look of wealth because they have a lot of debt. Travel around and look at all the trailer parks. What are trailer parks? There are people living on less than $1,000 a month. I was a police officer in a city and there was several trailer parks there, and there was actually, we would go and we would drive through the trailer park because every morning in the trailers, they will put a number out. They have the numbers of the days. They would put it in the window so that you would know that that person in that place that has nobody to take care of them is probably eating cat food, puts the number in the window to say, I have not fallen and I can still get up. That they have $0 and very little money coming in. But when we drive through an expensive area, we drive and we see the nice cars, because you're going to drive by 1,000 cars, you're only going to notice the 2 Rolls Royces. You're going to think, look at how much money people have. Look at how fancy this car. You're not seeing the $1,500 cars that Matt's driving around. Whereas I think your heater works now, right?
It does. It works. And so does the AC, which we both enjoyed. Right.
So we're comparing ourselves to 50% of the people who make over $150,000 a year say they live paycheck to paycheck. And so even the people who make more money don't feel wealthy. I think the idea is, so the question is, if baby boomers and older people retiring and have most of the wealth in America, I don't agree. How do you position yourself correctly? I think there are more influencers now under the age of 30 making exponentially more than anybody does over the age of 60. If you take out Warren Buffett and a couple of people like that. But look how many billions went into OnlyFans in the last year. It's like a whole new industry of money changing hands that isn't happening to people in their 50s or 60s. I don't think.
I mean, I haven't been on, but I would assume there's probably a channel like that.
Probably a younger thing. There is a market for everything. How do you position yourself correctly is the right answer. That you worded that perfectly. How do you position yourself correctly? Compare yourself to you last year, 5 years ago. And when you think baby boomers and older people retiring have most of the wealth in America, the idea there, the concept is everybody who's 20, 30, and 35 think they're always going to be that age. And that the bad people are the older people because they have all the wealth, not realizing, I say this often, you're going to be alive in 5 years. Start investing like it. You position yourself by learning how to put money to work, whatever asset class that is, stocks, crypto, business, real estate, doesn't matter. If you don't find a way to put money to work, you will be the person who at 65 and 60 has zero saved for retirement, is a door greeter at Walmart or a waiter or waitress at a Denny's, and it just looks like it hurts to get out of bed to go to work in the morning. That's what you're looking at. It's the quote from Warren Buffett. If you don't find a way to put your money to work, you're going to work for it until you die. I think he says, make money while you sleep. But it's the same thing. That's how you position yourself. Pick an asset class that excites you. Pick one, don't chase five. Master that and put your money to work. So that when you are the person who is 40, 50, or 60, the younger people will be complaining because you've had time to prepare and get your money together. While 90+% of the people your age bracket who will then be 50 or 60 are broke.
Yeah, I think any long-term strategy is you buy appreciable assets, you rent depreciable liabilities or depreciating liabilities. And I think that and that can be anything. That can be, you know, ETFs, that can be individual stocks, but be an investor, not a trader. And I think on, you know, residential real estate or any kind of real estate for that matter, I'm not going to argue with a 100-year chart. It goes up, continues to go up. The dollar continues to be worth less, and that's all still okay. And so I don't think that any of those trends are going to change. I think the key is when you're having to pick, and here's what I don't like about the stock market. What happens if when you retire, it's in an 07 crash, 08 crash, 09 crash? What happens then? I don't have to sell my asset at that point if I've had it for 20 years. Don't have to sell it. I can keep it. It's still generating my income. And in fact, at that point, I can even, if I needed to, lever it with 50% of the debt, still have income, and then have a big chunk of money that's not taxable because I put debt on my asset. So I just think you get a lot more flexibility out of real estate. I have a 401k as well. I didn't contribute anything to it. It's got a good chunk of money in there. I won't use it to buy more real estate, but it's sitting there and I'm good with that. But it's extremely unaggressive. And again, we'll see where we are in the swing of things when I go to retire, when I decide to pull it out. Doesn't matter.
Right now, there are people saying in some markets, not all, not Gary, Indiana, but they're saying this in Washington State. They might be saying this in New Hampshire in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe that person paid $100,000 for the duplex that they own. They bought it 30 years ago and it's paid off. And then, can you imagine if you paid $100,000 and it's paid off? They're saying that in 30 years.
That's right.
There will be people saying, I can't believe they only paid $1 million for that duplex 30 years ago and it's paid off. Can you imagine owning a duplex you only paid $1 million for and don't have any debt on it? That's
right.
That's how you position yourself.
Absolutely. Completely agree. Invest to Wealth. Hi, all. Hello. Mandy W. Hello. Keith Hager. Matt, thanks for the FMRs for Section 8. Woohoo. You're very welcome. I did a major breakdown on that in about a 10-minute video and then did a live stream on it yesterday. And then Dion's doing a live on it tomorrow. Dion, what's the name of that live again?
5 reasons your rent is about to go up. Now, this is for tenants and landlords. It's 5 reasons your rent is about to go up. And it is, well, Section 8 is a factor. It's not about why Section 8 is going up. It's why rent. 5 actual reasons today why rent is going up. Why it sucks to own rentals where my income is based on my rents. And I'm going to, because money's heavy. And you have to figure out what to do with it. And it sucks to make more. Exactly. I'm hoping to get more people the same problem.
Yep. Hyder is here. We can start now. Thanks, Hyder. Adversity breeds fortitude. I agree. Dion agreed as well. Ned talks. Matt's going to accidentally end up with a jet because his savings rate is so epic and he can't turn the hustle off. Yeah, I think that's still the part where I'm broken and Dion isn't so broken. Dion fixed the hustle switch.
It's a switch. You nailed it. It is 100% a switch. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go down to 60 hours a week next year.
On or off.
No, it's like, boom, you're just done.
Yep, exactly. I'm going to need to live closer to Dion if I hit that switch off. Josh Burdick, I got here late. What happened? Did Matt buy a Lamborghini? I did not buy a Lamborghini, although pricing is down. What's also down, though, is a lot of the other cars that I like. Like, it's a problem. I feel like I'm going to literally slap plastic down and walk away with something. It's not good. I was in the car yesterday with my kids. I took them to breakfast. It was not good. It was not good at all. It could have been a big problem. Yeah, because everything's down. Vipers are down. The SRT Hellcat Challenger Durango, that price is collapsed compared to where it was. It's becoming a problem to keep on walking away. Josh Burdick, freedom to walk is true freedom. That's exactly right. All-nighter hider, freedom to choose, Milton Friedman. See, I knew I heard that somewhere. No Bean, what would you recommend for landscaping in a rental? I have fruit trees in the backyard near the neighbors, debating to remove them as I will be renting out the house. Dion, what's your thoughts? I wouldn't remove fruit trees.
So my family is a bunch of arborists. My dad owned a tree service. My one brother's retired now with his, and I joined the Marine Corps because that's easier than tree work. On my rentals, everything it's in the lease, everything that's 8 feet or less is tenant's responsibility, except for one, my fourplex, because there's not clear delineations between what would be your yard and what wouldn't. The rest is all tenant's responsibility in the lease. Check your local laws to make sure that that's legal. Everything above 8 inches, as a person raised in a family of arborists, I do what my family would call butcher it. Bring all trees back to the smallest amount that you can so that you only have to deal with those trees every 3 or 4 years. I think I have tenants at places where I have fruit trees. I did that, butchered it back, make sure it's the right time of year, make sure it's pruned right, make sure the arborist has a good track record. They've been in the area for a long time and they know the trees that are in your area. To maintain that, tenants like shade, tenants like to have the trees. I don't know that I would remove them. I would remove any tree that's a safety hazard.
Agreed.
Right. That's my opinion. Unless you're going to do something with the space that's more productive.
I think when you have fruit trees, like it takes time to get them to a point where they're bearing quality fruit. I wouldn't be a ripper for me. I would have that add value. But that's just me. Let's see. Chris Webb. Hi, all. Thanks for the live stream on my busy day at work. Chris, happy to do that for you. Hider, Gen Z Bitcoin millionaires. There certainly are still some of those. Not really any Gen Z millionaires on Bitcoin, but there certainly are millennial Bitcoin millionaires.
I think the best thing that's happening with Bitcoin, the one positive that I see, is an entire generation is thinking, if I buy something that could go up in value in the future, I'll be better off. That at least opens the door to, oh, what things could I buy? And then they go, oh, that's kind of volatile and I lost my few $1,000s that I had. So what other assets? Don't do that as much. And then as you grow a portfolio, sure, throw some money at that. Right? Even Zuber has 1% of his money into crypto.
Yes,
I get it.
I concur. Jesse Thomas, meowdy. Josh Coster, thanks for the insight, Deanna Matt. You're very welcome. Chris Webb, I'm looking at a sixplex that was built in 1880. That's new for me. It looks ill-kept for such an older converted home. It is all separately metered, and I got the owner to lend on it. Brings in $3,200 now, expenses $2,640. Where's the bad part? It all looks good to me.
When were the updates done? And is there anything like knob and tube wiring? I'm sure there's something else. If it's that age, it's more probably in your area than in my area.
Probably. I think he's Virginia.
Pipes. I always say cast iron, but
yeah, cast iron's right. So there's cast iron. There's also, there's all galvanized steel. That stuff's awful.
Right.
Yeah,
so
cast iron's the big one.
When were the updates done? And if it's too old, that's not a deal killer. It's what would the expense to bring those up to date be? What would that do to your cash flow? What would it do to your yield? So you have the income versus expenses. What's the cost? What's the down payment? It's cost to acquire divided by annual profit. And so if expenses are $2,640, income's $3,200, how much are you setting aside for the pie tie, the expenses part, future, CapEx? Do you have property management included in that $2,640, or is this if you self-manage? Like there's a whole bunch of other numbers I would look at there to know if it was a good deal or not. Age, the 1880, that's the thing that would scare a lot of people away and wouldn't be a factor to me. It's when were the updates done? When you have an inspection done, what will they find for the foundation? Right.
Yeah. Let's see. And the other thing too, Chris Webb, is I would do a rent box. I would look at what the rent box is, because if you know your expenses are $2,640 and it brings in $3,200 now, how much meat's left on the bone? Because I bought old sixplexes like that, where there was $3,000 a month left on the bone because the landlord was that bad. So that's the
My
biggest
preferred purchase.
yeah, that's the biggest mistake. That's the biggest mistake I think people make is they base the income only on what the asset is yielding now or generating now for cash. If you know that units in decent shape like that, where you've built your rent box out and you know the market is 400 or 500 higher, I'm not talking about $100 higher that you can squeeze out of it. Not talking about that. I'm talking about I buy assets all the time where it's $300 to $500 to $700 a month. I can get more out of a unit. And that's a lot. 7 over 12 months is $8,400. That means I can do a $5,000 upgrade there and pay myself back in under a year. Jesse Thomas, what, if anything, do you guys know about self-directed IRAs? Trying to utilize some of my retirement for real estate investment. I know about them. I just didn't do it because it's the separate accounts. It's the separate accounting. It's all the things stay separate from my main business of houses. And so I didn't do it. I didn't want to do it. I was like, you know what? It's fine. That money can just sit there. It's not the big of a deal. Dion, I know, has done stuff on that.
So I have a suggestion, Jesse, on if you're doing self-directed IRAs. I would look at your retirement account and your experience.
Yeah.
So self-directed individual retirement accounts, a lot of people would say, I'm going to do that. I'm going to self-direct so that I can buy rentals. Right. So if you're going to self-direct so you can pick how you're going to allocate it, sure. But if you're going to self-direct to buy rentals, I want to say this without trying not to sound like a douche too much today. I keep attacking people who ask questions. It's the dumbest thing you can do with a retirement account because of two reasons. And I'm only saying this to try to help, okay? Because the company that has your retirement account is going to recommend that you do it. The economists out there are going to recommend that you do it. You have to have a property manager. You can't self-manage your rentals if they're in a retirement account. So yeah, if you're investing at a distance and you're going to have property management, sure, that's not a factor. But if you're going to do it in any other way, property managers make more on your rentals than you do. So that's the first no. The second no is you don't get to depreciate it. Like the glorious golden egg of real estate is that I made a couple $100,000 in profit last year, literally $200,000 in profit, paid zero in rental income tax because I can depreciate it. Well, if you put it in a self-directed retirement account, you don't get that. So it's like the dumbest thing you can do with your money. Now, that doesn't mean you don't want to have a retirement account and utilize it. So here's how I would look at the whole thing from take a step back. First, your retirement account that you currently have counts as a reserve. So when you go to buy the next property, your lenders will look at 50% of the money that's in your retirement account as a reserve. So you don't have to save down payment, closing costs, immediate repairs, and reserves. That's a bunch to put together. I'm not saying don't have reserves. I'm saying if you find the right deal and you have other things like paid off properties or a lot of equity or line of credit or credit cards that don't have any money on it, and you have your reserves covered and you have good cash flow to rebuild your reserves quickly, I've used my retirement account as a reserve to qualify for a loan. The second thing is some people will just borrow against their retirement account. So instead of self-directing, they take a loan against it so that they can use the money to buy a rental that you can now self-manage, you can now depreciate, and you can pay yourself back. The interest is paid to you. That's an option. The other option is to just take the money out of the retirement account, pay the penalty, pay the fees, pay the taxes, put the money to work in real estate, and where the benefits of real estate with depreciation and write-offs are better tax benefits with 1031s, with the stepped up tax basis system, with all of these benefits that you get, so much better than a retirement account. That's what I would do. But I would not do that on the first, second, and maybe even third deal, because those first couple of properties that we purchase is when we tend to make our biggest mistakes. I would want to lose the money that I've currently saved up to buy a property, make a bad investment, learn my mistakes, than to take something that I have taken years to save up, have the benefits from, pay the penalty, pay the taxes, and then take the risk of losing it. So I would acquire a rental or two. This is why I said look at your entire position and your equity and your cash flow before you do this. So if you've got the fundamentals down and you have confidence in your ability to get the yield you're expecting, you know how to find the deals, find a tenant, screen a tenant, keep a tenant, maintain and manage a property. In 2020, I emptied out my retirement account and bought a triplex. I would recommend doing it then. But that was after 8 years of investing. That was 8 years in before I was like, yeah, now I'm going to take the money out of retirement account because I know I have confidence in what I'm going to do. So that's what I would do. So self-direct, no. Empty, only if you have the skills and you've developed those skills to do it and put it to work in a better place. Last thing is, if you're using retirement accounts, what are they actually intended to do? They're intended to keep you in the workforce until you're 59 and a half. If you plan on retiring after 59 and a half, maybe just keeping it in the retirement account is the right way to go. It's already in there. You don't have to pay the taxes. You don't have to pay the penalty. You can get it out later. But if you plan on retiring before 59 and a half, that's when I would look at everything I said before that.
Yeah. Ned talks, you fit in a Viper? Jelly. Yeah, I'm 6'1", 260. So I fit in a Viper. I fit in an 09, an 01, and an 08. Those are all the ones that I've driven. I've owned a couple of them, but yeah, I love the Viper. Before the C8 Corvette came out, that car was by far the dominant US horsepower car. And very fun. In the beginning stages, it was more straight line, but man, it got really good at going around corners at 75 miles an hour. I can tell you that. Not that I would recommend that. All-nighter, Jesse, it's self-directed if they allow, and if you are allowed to invest in what you want, capital control is a hell of a drug. I do recommend inquiring. Legacy Op, don't buy a Hellcat. I already did a few years back, got rid of it fast. I was disappointed with it. Legacy Op, tell me what year, because I don't want the Hellcat car. I want the Hellcat Durango, because it's got 3-row seating. So I can use it for my family, and I hate driving a minivan. Hate it. I absolutely hate driving the minivan. I won't say what brand it is, but I absolutely hate it. My wife loves it.
Test drive the Hellcat first. So I wasn't looking at the Durango. I was looking at the car.
Yeah.
And an absolute lack of control because it had too much power for the types of tires you could put on it.
Correct.
So track, sure. New Hampshire, you get as much weather as we do here. It's not a usable car 5 months out of the year. Maybe
totally true, but neither are my motorcycles.
Right, but if you're looking at something with 3rd-row seating, you're using it more than, you're not putting all
absolutely
all your family on the bike,
100%. Right? I would drive that thing year round without a doubt. Right. So, and that's the thing, is it has to be still, but it's 4-wheel drive, has to be traction control. So if it has 4-wheel drive and traction control, then the rest is kind of manageable. But yes, I totally agree with you. Tony J, good morning. Good to see you. Chris
Captain
Webb.
Sags, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, sir. On that Sixplex, yes, I have not done inspections yet because it is a multi-unit. I'm following CC's deal debt equity. I think I have the deal now. I need to get it inspected. Yes, PM included. Ugh. I don't like PMs.
Maybe it's at a distance. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be. Even then, still don't like them. In-source property management. That's one of the things that we teach. We have people that are hundreds or thousands of miles away from their assets. They are able to in-source property management. How do you think Dion can go to Bangkok or wherever he's going?
So I go everywhere in Thailand, but Bangkok and Pattaya. Those are the two I'm not really a fan of.
Why?
But everywhere. But Bangkok is Los Angeles.
Oh, gross.
Right. So you literally, there's a street in Bangkok that my friends recommended. They screwed both of them that told me to go there. Forget what street it was, but I stood on a grate and you could see just an ocean of rats going below you. So that's what Bangkok was to me. But you get out of there, you go to Chiang Mai. It's a beautiful city. You get out of the islands like Koh Tao, Koh Phanong, or whatever. It's a beautiful country outside of Bangkok. And
okay.
Pattaya is not the right element. Anybody who's been there knows what I'm talking about.
I believe you. BTC's value is in its fundamental monetary freedom, not its dollar-denominated price. Totally agree with you. The challenge is when you sell, that's still what it is. And so if you're using it to retire, the only thing you can do is sell it. And then it's based on the denominated price that you need to live on. Chris Webb, thanks again, guys. Yes, I asked a rental agent about rent. He is seeing in the area and they are higher, possibly $75 per door, which would bring in an extra $450 per month. That's not a number I would carry. I wouldn't carry that number. While it might be nice that you're going to do that, here's what I can promise you. You try and raise it $75, you'll have somebody that will literally leave over that. And then you're looking at a turn. And then if it's an old dated turn, now you're looking at $5,000 to $7,000. Was it really then worth it? But Dion's binder strategy is absolutely the way to go to figure that piece out.
So yeah, with it being that close, the binder strategy might not be as good either, because what you're looking for is an increase of $300-400. And so if there's only a $75, that's just a rent increase where you are going to have tenant turnover. So when you're running the numbers, I would use about 10% less than area average. And if area average would bring you up $75, there's not more meat on the bone there than what you have in what the numbers I'm seeing here.
Yes, I
Then
agree.
JDT says, Dion, they were never going to pay that 2 million, totally the carrot on the string. So I had a contract. If a sale happened, I would get the 2 million. But here's where you're right. Here's why they would never pay it. As long as I worked there and they lived in another state and never had to do anything and millions of dollars in profit came in every year, why would they ever sell?
That's right.
So you're all right. It's carrot on the stick, golden handcuffs. And when I say I walked away from the $2 million, I know that if I stayed, they would never sell. So it was a little easier for me than in your situation, Matt, where they're probably going to sell, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
See.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, age of ownership makes a difference, for sure. To Dion's point, if it's making and throwing a ton of cash off, no one sells an extremely profitable business unless they're getting a massive multiple. And then they look at it and they go, but what if that was our one trick pony? Like
That's
a lot
why
of
they
people,
don't sell. What
exactly.
if we couldn't duplicate, right?
How many times have they failed at something else? I don't know them, but how many times have they failed at something else where it didn't turn into something? And they're like, we found one, it's throwing off buckets of cash. Whether we like it or not, we're CDL school owners, right? And it's because it creates that much cash. Josh Burdick, you were talking about fruit trees, made my mind compare to rentals. Planting a fruit tree is like buying a rental. Takes you years of planting more fruit. Then 10 years later, you have bushels of cash. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, anything like that takes time. TJS, use your Sedera as a private money lender. Yep, you can certainly borrow against it yourself, but that's, again, the challenge becomes all the things that Dion talked about. Still, all those things, all those challenges exist. Chris Webb, also, who is going to Vegas? I think a lot of people, I know Dion and I will be there. We just don't know when yet. Did he say when?
I think he's so September
Shooting for
8th,
February.
He has a meeting September 8th to I think coordinate the building, shooting for February. So I'm actually going to be flying from Thailand to Vegas, back to Thailand for the event.
Show off.
No, just trying to tease you into come to our side. We've got cookies.
Oh, I'm coming to Vegas. There's no doubt I'll be in Vegas.
No, the retired side.
Yeah, there's no doubt I'll be in Vegas. No doubt. Retired or not, I'll be in Vegas. REI Stoners, morning, fellas. Good morning, sir. Legacy Up 2016 Challenger. Yeah, that's what I thought. So that was the first year. It was really unrefined then. They've gotten a lot better at refinement because they had to, because they went and they created the Demon. And when they created the Demon from the Hellcat, now you're talking about a 900 horsepower car. And that would twist frames. So they had to make it more streetable. So the newer ones are better. But yeah, I remember that about the 2016. That was a rather unstreetable car. All-nighter hider. Yes. Vegas bound. 72 Bronco Sport for me. Wish I still had her. I understand that. I had an 85 Chevy Blazer. I loved it. And I had a 79 K5. Love those trucks. They were a lot of fun. Jesse Thomas. I see. Sedera, not for me. Great insight, Dion. Thank you. Investment advisor is saying it would be a 43% penalty. No, not on withdrawal. Yeah. REI funds. Nope. Have 2 rentals now. I would never withdraw anything with a 43% penalty.
Well, it's 10% penalty, then your taxes. So that's
right.
what you're taking it out.
Well, I agreed, but that's why I would never, like, 43 points. I'm losing 43 cents on every dollar. No, that is a no. All-nighter hider. Ocean of Rats was the name of my 80s cover band. Really? What were you covering? Were you covering the band Rat? Jesse Thomas, all-nighter hider. Thanks so much for the Sedera input. Also, the Bronco design was the best. I mean, it was all right. It was pretty. That's why they remake them now. Tony J S, morning, Josh, Chris Webb. I see. Thanks again, guys. You're welcome. All-night hider with a 302. That truck could climb a tree. That's true. REI Stoners, is there a big cost difference in regular insulation and spraying it on? We need it under the floor. A massive difference in cost. Do you want to cover that, Dion?
So I'll let you cover the cost because there's a couple of reasons why I don't use the spray insulation.
Right? Are you going to say formaldehyde?
I actually worked for an insulation company as a consultant on hiring veterans. And so I learned a lot about insulation and how they price it, how they do it, and where they will use it and where they recommend it. And almost every experienced contractor that they've worked with for years, homeowners that knew what they were doing, that were contractors building their own thing, did the regular insulation, not the spray. Especially, Josh, if you're doing the under the floor, that's an up version. I wouldn't be comfortable with that. Your walls in your attic, I mean, it's a little easier to do there, but underneath, I regular insulation. Matt, you've done so many, you know, the one to recommend, and I actually probably reached out to you when I was talking about the insulation for my current rehab on what to use. I just know that here in the state I live, where Josh does, there's kind of like a list of reasons why I don't like the spray foam here.
Is it formaldehyde? Is that the issue, like off gassing?
Well, it's off gassing. The price is like about 3 times as much as the regular stuff. So I mean, that's the deal killer there.
Like that's
it's not moisture friendly. When you have rodent issues with regular insulation, it's a pretty easy fix. When you have rodent insulation problems with the spray foam, it's not. It's what was the thing the guy said? It was like another reason to it there, but I don't remember what it was.
Was it open cell or closed cell?
It's probably what he was talking about, and I didn't commit it to memory because I easily made the switch of just going with this one.
Yep, sure. So there are huge differences. I'll probably have to do a video on it because there are so many differences, but real easy. It's this. Closed cell foam is usually about 4.2 to 4.4 R value per inch. That's open cell. Closed cell foam is about 7.2 to 7.4 R value per inch. R value is what you're going for when you're looking at insulation. When you do that with the closed cell foam, it has a level of rigidity to it. And that level of rigidity is really important because it will actually strengthen the structural integrity of your home by about 200%. It takes away the weaking, the squeaking, the twisting if there is any. But those are really powerful products. You're typically looking at, it's usually about $1 a linear foot for the spray foam, for the hard stuff. And then you multiply that by, typically you're putting 3.5 inches in a wall, but that will get you well over your R21 wall requirement. The key to it is, for me, is that I want ease of use. The open cell foam, pests can get into it and they can eat it. The closed cell foam, if they get into it and they take a bite, they can't actually pass it and they die. So you can end up with them in your walls dying because when they go to eat some of it and try and create their path, they can't digest it and they die. The other thing too is that I use a rock wool product. That gives me, you can get it for R15, R19, R21. You can also get it in R30 and R23, R30 and R38. And R38 is usually what's required in attics now. And R23 is perfect for basement floors. The one thing that I have done in the past, because what you really are trying to do is stop air penetration, I'll actually get spray foam, and you can buy it in the bottle. I'll actually get spray foam and spray it on the rim joist, which is the rim around your entire building. I'll spray it in those little pockets just for an inch, just to stop all the airflow from coming in, because that's where you lose a lot of your heat in the wintertime on the East Coast. Then I will put in the Roxol, and that's, for me, the best of both worlds because that actually hits cost. So that's what I would do. So I use the Rockwool product and then just picking the R value that's appropriate for the space. And if you're trying to cut down on noise between units, I use something called Safe and Sound. That's made by a company called not Rockwool, Roxol. That's made by Roxol. So that's what I've used. REI owners, can't wait to meet you in Vegas, Matt. Can't wait to meet you either. I'm excited to meet everybody. REI owners, the band Rat was good. The band Rat was good. Dion, that's not the kind of music you listen to, right? I like 80s hair metal. Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, I didn't think
I will listen to anything, but I don't listen to anything.
I got it. That's true.
I think listening to music is like staring at the same page of a book for 30 years.
Ugh.
It really is.
It's awful. So I'm from a musical family. I listen to my favorite that will almost always, the greatest band that never got famous was probably either Firehouse or Alter Bridge. Look them up. They're awesome. Miles Kennedy, greatest singer of all time. Ned Talk, sold my 911 to buy my first rental. I sold my 911 as well. I loved my 911. I realized pretty quick I was a dummy when I was trying to figure out how to afford groceries when I had the dream car and the condo and no cash left every month. I did buy my 911 much later in life. I loved it and really enjoyed the car, had so much fun with it, and then on to the next. Deanna, have you ever had a dream car?
Oh, well, I don't know if it'd be a dream car, but I had all those years with like terrible cars, and I had a 1970 Ford Mustang, completely rebuilt, interior, engine, transmission. Lost it in the divorce, and my poor kids had to grow up their entire lives hearing me say, "I would have traded any one of you for that car." And then 2018, after when I finally reached financial independence, Corvette, and then Tundra pickup, Ford Raptor. That was stupid. That's the worst vehicle on the planet. Don't ever buy a Raptor. They were terrible.
Really?
I'm a Ford fan. I've had the 250 diesel, loved it. I have a 150 now, with the Ecotec engine. Super happy with it. But I cycled through. I love the Corvette. It was just before the mid-engine came out, so I bought the 2018. 2020 was probably the one I would have wanted. But I live in Washington, and you shouldn't own a low to the ground vehicle here because you're just driving in everybody's tire spray from the rain.
Yeah.
Exactly. So those were I cycled through like dream car every year. I was like, the duplex is buying my vehicle, buy any vehicle I want, and now it's producing a little over 2,000 a month. You can get a pretty decent car for 2,000 a month. Next one's probably going to be the Tundra hybrid pickup. That's what I'm looking at now. Don't know that I have, and I test drove the Hellcat when I was looking at the Corvette too.
Yeah,
so the Hellcat had a bigger engine, had more horsepower. It was undrivable on the roads here, so I went with the Corvette instead.
Yeah, I like it. John, Texas, Bronco and oh no, already read that. Sorry. Thanks, guys. Regular insulation. Yep. Next question is pro or handyman. You can find guys that will I would get quotes for both. But yeah, so like Dion, he got a quote from a pro, but installed by handyman. I would get quotes for both just to make sure you know what you're spending. There's a lot of places that will do it for, less than $1 a square foot. And at that price, I'd rather have a pro that can buzz through it in a day than a handyman fumble effing it around for $3. Because the pros, they'll bring in 3 guys and they'll just bang it out, and they know how to properly back cut. This is a really important concept. When you're open up in a wall and you have a line of wire coming across there, they'll stick a piece under and stick a piece over. It's not how you do it. You can actually take the rock wool and you can back cut it where you can put it in the slot in the bay and then push it over the wire. And then you still have air barrier on this side. That's the proper way to install it, because your wire will be a couple inches deep in that. That's the better way to install it. And that's why for us, we will actually either use a pro or we'll do it with hired hands ourselves, but we teach them how we want it back cut. That's an important element to it. REI Stoners, nice, Dion. Yes. Julie Anderson, good morning, boys. Good morning, Julie. Closed cell versus open cell. What does that mean? It's the molecular structure of the actual product. So you can look them up online, Josh, like I know you will, because you're an astute student in the course. Look at the closed cell and open cell differences. And what you'll find is it's the tightness of the molecular structure. Open cell meaning it really is an open cell, and the closed cell meaning it really is closed. So it's much, much tighter. That's why you can take your finger and you can poke into open cell. And if you try and do that on closed cell, you'll break your finger because it actually hardens. It hardens like a rock. And that's what brings the structural capability and the structural power to it in an old asset like what we have. Chris Webb, yes, I can't wait for Vegas. And since I moved away from Dallas, I can't wait for In-N-Out Burger. Interesting. I like In-N-Out Burger, but I don't love it. Dion, you're a McDonald's guy, right?
I'm a McDonald's guy. If you go to In-N-Out, you got to go to their secret menu, go to their website, look up their secret menu, do something off because their hamburgers are terrible.
Yeah, they're not that good.
One of my favorite things to do whenever I travel through California or whatever is because I know I have friends here in Washington who also like In-N-Out Burger. I will go to McDonald's, get my meal, go to In-N-Out Burger in the parking lot and take a picture of the sign with my bag, my McDonald's bag. And tell my friends, look, I'm here and I still don't go to this crappy restaurant.
I've seen that picture. I was like, are you conflicted? And then I was like, and then you explained it.
Torturing
and I was like,
my friends.
Yeah. We went to Vegas. So when we go to Vegas, we have all the different chains there that aren't here. So we hit them all. And In-N-Out was by far my least favorite. I was like, this sucks. I don't know why there's even secret menu. Didn't like it. Let's see. Great all-nighter hider, great advertising. I think I'll go to In-N-Out today. There you go. Jesse Thomas, OMG, Firehouse gets a mention. When I look into your eyes, absolutely. Shake and Tumble, It Ought to Be a Law, all phenomenal. Just a that first record was nothing short of spectacular. And they got killed because then all the grunge crap from Seattle came about in the early 90s and Firehouse died on the vine, which sucked. Man, that sucked. Yeah, I'm still bitter about it. All-nighter, I back cut my insulation for wire and pipes. There you go. Hyder's installing it properly. Ned talks, my Raptor would be great if 12 of the 36 months I'd own it hadn't been in the shop. Exactly. Oddly, the same thing has never broken on it. So I'm close to having a new truck at this point. Dean, was that your experience with your Raptor? Was it broken a lot?
Mine wasn't in the shop too much. It was just too heavy for the frame. So we've got a lot of beaches here in Washington you can just drive on. And I've taken every Corvette too. I've taken every vehicle I own out on the beach. And I took the Raptor out and it just sunk right to the frame. All four tires just dug it right into the frame. A Ford Pinto went around us. And then a school bus went around us. So this is, not my favorite truck. After I got rid of it and I had the Tundra, I have a video. I had a house where my driveway was at a probably, 7% grade. The Tundra went up, hooked a chain to the Raptor to pull it up because the Raptor would just sit in place and spin all four tires, wouldn't do anything. And so the Tundra pulled the Raptor up the hill. That was a stupid vehicle. I'm glad I owned it, so I can, because it looks cool. Yeah. I thought, I'd like to own one of those. I own one of those. I'm like, ugh, never again.
Well, that's always a problem. Like these cars in the commercials, or even when you just see them down the road, you're like, that thing's amazing. But I want to see the maintenance bill. I want to know what is it streetable? Like that 16, I think it was a 16 Hellcat I drove, or a 17. I thought that car sucked because it was just not streetable. And that's one of the things that Corvette's always done really, really well, is make the car streetable. Same thing with the Viper. I've owned multiple Vipers and they were awesome. I loved my 01. I had a Hennessy 650 Viper. That car was a lot of fun. And I bought that when I was not broke, but when I was young and wasn't really investing the right way. REI Stoners, would closed structure be better so mice don't get into it? I like closed self-home, but I only like it in limited fashion, which is that rim joist, not spraying the entire basement. But I just want that on the rim joist for outside air penetration. Then I'm going Roxol, then I'm doing rock wool, then I'm going plastic. I'm going plastic on that ceiling, especially for areas where you get a lot of moisture. You want to keep that moisture coming up. Like if you've got wood floors on the first floor, that can pop wood. In fact, I'm going to show a picture of that this next week. We had that happen. A sump pump in a basement died, and so much moisture in the basement when we got torrential rain that's then sat there for a week. We actually started to get some lumping in the floorboards, and that's what happens. All-nighter. After 23 years in the trades, 15 self-employed, I can verify Matt has great construction integrity. Thanks, Hyder. I appreciate that. I ask a lot of questions. I listen, I learn. I've not done everything, but I've paid to have everything done. So I've done a lot of stuff, but I've done. And when you put in the rock wool, Josh, if you guys do the rock wool project yourselves, make sure that you have proper gloves, make sure that you have a Tyvek suit, and make sure that you have some sort of a respirator on. P100 preferably. I don't like the N95. So when I have guys that we bring on do it, I make them wear a P100, which is a full face mask with a respirator. I want to make sure exactly that. Yep. There you go. Those are them. If you're putting in rock wool, you need that. Now you can buy that stuff off of Amazon for less than $100 as a package.
I have these
rock wool
spiders.
Oh dear God. We don't.
Not a spider fan.
Yes. Oh, trust me, we know.
And then me and Millennial Mike went and did the video, and I didn't have it on, so we went down there and talked to all the spiders. It was great.
And see, you were okay. See, you're fine. And you've got the money for therapy if you're not. Josh Coster, In-N-Out is a good value in my opinion. See, I don't disagree with the value, but it goes way down for me because if it's a good value, it's also got to taste really good. And for me, I'd rather spend an extra few bucks like Dion. This is one of the things Dion taught me. I'd rather spend the extra money and get something that I really, really like than only going like, because then I don't think it's a value. I don't, right? If I'm eating it just to fill my belly, then and it doesn't taste good. Well, then it's just, I'm buying it because I'm buying it. Don't love it. All nighter hider, 3x3 animal style grilled onions, extra pickle and buns grilled with the mustard is the standard. It's settled. I'm going. Go for it. Baby powder all over all over is a fiberglass repellent too. Absolutely. That's a great tip. And man, those Tyvek suits, they suck. You get so hot in those things, especially the respirator. Gross. REI Centers, I'm not crawling under the house. I'm not like Dion where I hate spider. I'm a lot like Dion where I hate spiders and creepy crawlers.
You know what the trick to the Tyvek suit is?
What?
This is from the Marine Corps with mop gear.
What's the trick?
You have a spray bottle of
Okay.
water, and you spray your arms, you spray your legs, you spray everything. Get it just a little bit wet on purpose. You're wet. You put your suit on. Then your brain doesn't associate all the gallons of sweat you're putting yourself into in that Tyvek suit. So just make yourself wet, get in it. It's so much more comfortable.
That's a great tip. I didn't know that one. I love it. Anna K, just found y'all are on live. I know, and we're actually close to done. I'm interested in this topic. I will rewind and would enjoy the beginning later. That's okay, Anna K. That's completely acceptable. Dion, any closing thoughts?
Well, we started this video with, is retirement dead? And I'm thinking, I hope so. I hope that we can find a way to help more people become financially independent so that work is optional, because how great a world would it be if people had jobs they wanted instead of jobs they had to have?
Totally agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. It's the truth. I choose to do my job every day, and that's what makes me enjoy it more. And you can also see if it's becoming a trend where it's making you miserable and it's just not worth the fight anymore. And that's kind of where I was at, where I was just like, this isn't fun anymore. I don't enjoy it anymore. People I work for anymore. This is probably the time for me to move on. So we gave it one last effort. We got the company transition, and we're with great new ownership. And so I'm very excited to kind of see how that goes, but we'll see. Our first day of dating was wonderful. It was pure bliss. And now we'll see how it goes. We'll see if I can do like Dion does and never get married.
I am nice to throw that in there at the end. It's not that I never got married. It's that I've been married too many times.
Never get married.
Okay,
now, not get. Never get.
I believe you when you say,
yeah,
you have a lazy switch.
Oh, I so do.
The people who know you, and I've said this in a couple of videos before, where I think the drive and ambition it takes to reach financial freedom isn't usually the personality that can turn it off and do nothing. But I think you totally can.
Yeah, I got a black belt in lazy. Trust me, I can make it happen. Because that's the thing is, I literally get to the point where I'm just like, I'm choosing to shut it all off. And I shut it all off, but I recognize that I turned the switch back on. But that's 100%. So for me, it's just longer. It's just longer duration. And I really enjoy my life. I enjoy my kids. I enjoy my friends like Dion. You know, I would be doing more housing projects because that doesn't stress me out. I actually enjoy it. I like figuring out problems, you know, and that sort of thing. And giving something else to share with you guys. More content. So as I always say, we try and create great content for you. Please make sure you hit that like button on the way out. It was a great time being able to spend time and hang out with you guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your amazing Labor Day and a fantastic week. And don't miss Dion tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. Pacific, where he will be covering.
So I'm actually going to be giving away an hour of time, a Zoom call one-on-one. For anybody who can guess in the comments, I'm going to put the video up when we're done here. So I'm going to put it up. It'll come live tomorrow at 4 p.m. Pacific. The 5 reasons your rent is about to skyrocket, whether you're a tenant or a landlord, your rent is about to skyrocket. 5 reasons. Anybody who can guess those 5 things in the comments of this video, the first person to guess all 5 correctly, that I'm going to talk about in the intro. So you have to guess it before or guess it during the intro. We'll get that hour of time. It's 5 reasons why your rent is about to skyrocket. And I'll give you a hint. I'll help people that are going to guess those 5 reasons. The first one is, it's not inflation. And the second one is, it is not your expenses. There's 5 reasons why your rent is going to skyrocket that isn't inflation and isn't your expenses.
That's pretty awesome. Hopefully you guys will figure it out. And like I say, Dion tomorrow, 4:00 Pacific, 7:00 Eastern time. We will see you guys in the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.